Goedendag and welcome to PA Dutch 101. This is video 30 in our series, and this is a vocabulary building video, but it's also a video that kind of explains a very subtle nuance of the Pennsylvania Dutch dialect. And that's the idea of emphasis words, or as I say, Dutch woorden uitdrukken. These are words that we use a lot, but are difficult to understand at first. I don't want to scare you away. It doesn't really matter if you've seen any of the previous videos in this instance. This is a video that's going to take your Dutch to another level, so to speak. It kind of separates the learner from someone that has a pretty good handle on the dialect, and it makes you sound a lot more Dutch. I guess that's what I want to say here. So let's jump in, and I think you'll see what I mean. So, emphasis words. We have them in English, we use them a lot in spoken English, and you'll quickly realize that we use them a lot in Dutch too. There are a number of Pennsylvania Dutch words that are used for emphasis. Not necessarily for meaning, but for emphasis. These words cannot be translated literally. Now what I mean by that is, you'll find all these words in a dictionary, and they have a literal meaning. I'll give them to you today. But when we use them for emphasis, their literal meaning does not apply anymore. That's the best way I can describe it, and again, this will make sense once you see it in usage, I believe, much better than me trying to explain it now. Okay? And the key is that many Pennsylvania Dutch speakers, especially people that are native speakers, will use these words often in their spoken Dutch. Okay? They'll be there all the time. Okay? So that's why a lot of times people that are learning the dialect, they'll hear native speakers using these words, they'll look the words up, and then they'll think, it doesn't really make sense. Not literally, but it does figuratively when it's being used in speech. Okay. The first word we want to look at that's used for emphasis is awa. 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 And we've probably seen this in previous videos, this word. If you look awa up in a dictionary, it will give you the literal translation, but. B-U-T. But now watch how it gets used and how that meaning changes. If we take the sentence, Du bist gescheit. Du bist gescheit. Literally, you are smart. Okay. We can insert the word our into the sentence, and it changes the meaning of the sentence slightly, but enough that it does change the meaning. We take that exact same sentence and insert aber, we now get the sentence, Du bist aber gescheit. And notice that I've translated this way, aren't you smart? You can hear right away, not only in the tone of voice, Du bist gescheit, Du bist aber gescheit. The inflection of the voice changes, and it has a different meaning. I think you'll all agree with me as an English speaker that you are smart and aren't you smart are different in the tone and the meaning of what the speaker is actually saying. And therein is why these words for emphasis get used. You can't say, you are but smart. It doesn't make sense literally, but in context it does. Du bist aber gescheit. Okay? I hope that kind of clears things up a little bit, and we have a couple more words that are used, and maybe as we go through them, you'll start to get that a little bit more. All right. The second word is Yosh. 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 And if you look Yosh up in the dictionary, you'll see that its literal translation is just. How does this one get used? Well, let's take this sentence, this command actually. Geh da drüber. Geh da drüber. Literally, go over there. Okay? Now, if we throw Yosh into there, watch how it changes the meaning of that. Geh Yosh da drüber. Geh Yosh da drüber. Just go over there. You can hear the difference, and really, if you were teaching English to someone that didn't know English, they're learning it as a second language, it would be difficult for an English speaker, a native English speaker, to really describe the difference between these two sentences. We understand the meaning and the difference, but it's difficult for us to explain. And it's kind of the same way in Dutch. We use these words to slightly change the meaning of a sentence, but not with their literal translations. It's the best way I can describe it. And I'll be honest with you, and I'll say this again at the end of the video. The only way you can really get a good handle on these is A, having more interaction with native speakers that use these, and you'll quickly hear when they use them as opposed to when they don't use them, and in what context. This is something that really, I think you only can master by practicing, but practicing with someone that knows the dialect. You don't have to use these words, but they really bump you up a notch, I guess, in how Dutch you are, or how Dutch you sound. Okay? I mean, you can just say "Ga dat river." That's fine. Go over there. This is another level up. "Ga Yosh dat river." Just go over there, as opposed to go over there. Okay? I hope I'm not scaring you away. The next word, mol. 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 Look that up in a dictionary and it will say literally once, as in one time or once. Okay? Now, here's this sentence. Let's try this one. Bring thy nice boek mit. Bring thy nice boek mit. Bring your new book along. Let's add mol and see how that changes the meaning. Bring mol thy nice boek mit. Bring mol thy nice boek mit. And I have this chance as, why don't you bring your new book along? We can see the difference. Bring your new book along as to, why don't you bring your new book along? Sometimes I also think maybe we associate it too quickly with like sarcasm, and sometimes it can mean, you know, have a sarcastic nature. I bring mol thy nice boek mit. But it doesn't always have to be sarcastic either. So maybe that's another way to think about it. I think this is the last one. Ja, which is a word we have seen before. Ja. Ja. Literally means yes, if you look it up in the dictionary. Let's take this sentence. Du weet, wir wohnen in Lebanon. Du weet, wir wohnen in Lebanon. You know that we live in Lebanon. Okay? We had ja in there, and this had... Du weißt ja, wir wohnen in Lebanon. Du weißt ja, wir wohnen in Lebanon. You know very well that we live in Lebanon. Okay? This one I think does have kind of a little bit of a sarcastic tone to it, but it wouldn't have to. Maybe you've been telling this person 55 times that you live there and they just aren't getting it. You say, Du weißt ja. Instead of, Du weißt. Du weißt ja. You know this. See that inflection difference. That's why it's this emphasis. We're using it for emphasis as opposed to what we just talked about. I bring dein neues Buch mit. Bring mal dein neues Buch mit. Bring your book along. And just that introduction of that one little word, mal or ja, really does change the emphasis of what you're saying. And it could be to a negative aspect or to a positive aspect. Or that whole sarcasm realm too. This is really where you know, you start getting into when you're able to start using this type of stuff. So these types of words for emphasis. It shows someone that you're talking to that you have a good handle on a language. Not only are you able to use the correct words, conjugate verbs properly, have the right word order, you are not only able to do all of that, you're now able to also add the nuances of a dialect or a language into your spoken abilities. And that really does raise the bar. And that's a good thing. Again, my advice to you, and this is a difficult lesson to practice because you really need someone to practice with that understands this or uses these words for emphasis. If you are lucky enough that you know someone or you have a relative that is a native Pennsylvania Dutch speaker, or someone that maybe isn't native but has a very good handle on the dialect, those are the people you need to find to practice this lesson on. And here again I'll go back to, if you use social media, those groups on Facebook are loaded and full of people that are native speakers or near native speakers, native proficiency. They're the people that if you don't have anybody else in your circle of friends or in your family that is a Pennsylvania Dutch speaker, use them as a resource. message me on Facebook or email me and say, hey, I'd like to practice this. Let me run these sentences by you. Am I doing this correctly? And I'll help you. Okay? And there I know that there are other people that are in these groups on Facebook that will gladly help you because it's preserving our language. And that's what this is all about. Not only am I making these videos so that you can learn a new language or learn the language of your forefathers, it's also my efforts to save and preserve the dialect. So I'm here to help. And a lot of other people are too. You just got to find them or not be afraid to ask. Okay? This was a short lesson on these words for emphasis. It wasn't an easy lesson by any means. It might seem easy on the surface, but to really get a handle on these, it takes some practice and some serious practice, I guess, is the best way of putting it. But that's it for now. Bis die nächste Video. Mach's gut und schwätz Deutsch.